We'll start our class with the prayers. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Sahana Vavatu, Sahanau Bhunaktu, Sah Viryam Karvavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Now we'll pray for those who are suffering by chanting Mahamrityunjay mantra 3 times. You can join with me. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhana Mrutyurmukshiyamamrutat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhana Mrutyurmukshiyamamrutat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhana Mrutyurmukshiyamamrutat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Welcome everyone. We'll start with our Gita classes. So far we have done 5 verses, and today we'll do the 6th verse. This verse also is in the Trishtup meter, means there are 11 syllables in each quartet. So I would invite any of you who want to volunteer to chant it along with me. You can raise your hand in the Zoom and I can unmute your mic. Okay, so I do not see any volunteers. That is fine. Okay, there is one person. I'll unmute. Okay, Baba, you can chant along with me. So I'll repeat. I'll chant and you repeat after me. Na chaitadvidma kataranno gariyah
न चैतद्विद्नः कतरन्यो गरियो
yadva jayema yadivano jayeyuh
यद्वा जयेम यदिवानो जयेयुः
याने वहत्वा न जिजीविषामः
यानेव हत्वा न जीविविषाम
तेव स्थिताः प्रमुखे धार्तराष्ट्राः
स्तेव स्थिताः प्रमुखे धार्तराष्ट्राः.
Okay, we'll chant the verse together. Na chaitadvidma kataranno gariyah yadva jayema yadivano jayeyuh यानेव हत्वा न जिजीविषामः तेव स्थिताः प्रमुखे धार्तराष्ट्राः. So while chanting the verses in Gita, I just want to bring your attention to one thing. Here the word says Gariyo, but when we chant, because there is a stop of the quartet end, so there is a slight pause. Because of the pause, the sandhi split happens. So actual word is gariha, which I have put in the transliteration for the ease of chanting. So that's how we chant gariya. Normally, it's not necessarily wrong, but most of the times in Gita, that's how we chant. We chant by making a pause. As a result of pause after every quartet, the sandhi split happens. So just to let you know. So we'll do our word analysis. These are the different words. So na is indeclinable. Cha is also indeclinable. And I'll just stop my video so that you can see the screen wider. You can hide the video panel, and that will make the screen sharing wider, so you can see more screen space. Etat is nominal pronoun. Vidma is verb. Katrat is nominal pronoun. Naha is nominal pronoun. Gariha is nominal. Yadva is indeclinable. Jayema is verb. Yadiva is indeclinable. Naha is nominal pronoun. Jayeyu is verb. Yan is pronoun. Eva is indeclinable. Hatva is indeclinable. Na is indeclinable. Jijivishama is the verb. Te is nominal pronoun. Avasthita is nominal. Pramukhe is nominal. And Dhartarashtra is nominal. So first thing you would notice that there are quite a few words in this verse. Like when you split, the number of words are quite a few, but many of them are indeclinable and pronoun. So as you know, for indeclinable, we don't have to do any further analysis just to understand the word meaning. Also, if you notice, there are 4 verbs. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the 4 verbs. That means the whole verse can be split into 4 different sentences. Almost like that's a rough guideline for us to understand the words. So indeclinable na, it means it's just the meaning, not, sorry. Cha means and. Etat, this. Vidmah. So etat is a nominal pronoun. So this is actually accusative, singular. Gender is neuter here, and base word is etad. So those of you know pronoun table, you can actually see that tad and etad are similar, and tat, and here is tad. Etat works in the similar manner. It becomes etat. Means this. Vidma is a verb form, and for the verb we will do the analysis on the right side, the tense. So it's a present tense, lat lakara. It's a first person, that means I or we. It's a plural. So first person plural means we. So the verb itself tells you that it is used for we. Verb type, it's a parasmaipadi. Root is with. So the meaning of the root is no. So from here, you know it's a present tense. and its first person plural means we know. That's the meaning of the verb is. Vidma means we know. Katrat, it's a nominal pronoun. So accusative, singular, neuter, and base word is the same, katrat. Means which of the two. So between the two, which one? That's the meaning. Between the two, which one? Like as a question mark. Naha is a nominal pronoun. So if you look at here, pronoun tables, and we have Asmad. So this word Naha is coming three places. Second case, accusative case, second case, fourth case, and sixth case. So Naha is the short form, and that's what has been used here. So Naha here, it is used in the sixth case. So sixth, plural. There is truly speaking no gender for these pronouns, Asmad. It is the same in all the three genders. And so it means ours, or in English, sometimes it means for us. Because it's a genitive, it's the meaning of. So, but in Sanskrit, the way it is used, sometimes it can mean for us. Gariha, this is also the accusative singular neuter. And here the word is gariyas, means better. Better or superior or more important, in that sense, between the two. That's how it is used. Yadva, it's an indeclinable. So all we have to worry about the meaning. It means whether, it's an indeclinable. Jaema, it's a verb. And as a verb, it is, we have to see the tense. Person. It is a also first person, plural. And it's a parasmaipadi. And the verb here is G. G means to win. Now, if you look at, it's a first person, sorry, plural, not dual. It means to win, and it's a first person plural means we win. And Vidhiling, it normally used means we would win. So in that sense, meaning will come out from the verb form itself. Vidhiling is optative. It would mean we would win. Yadiva, or else, in that sense it is used. Naha, it is the same word here, but as I told you that this word appears in three different cases. So here it is used in accusative case. And again, it doesn't really have a gender because it's Asmad. It is in the same in all the genders. It's for the meaning of I, and meaning is us. So it's an object. We are the object of the accusative is object. We are the object of the verb. So in this case, and jayuhu, this is also a verb. This is also Vidhiling, optative. it is the third person plural Parasmaipadi, and root here is the same G, to win. But you see here, it is the third person plural, and this is the first person plural. So here means we would win, and here it means they would win. So just the forms are different, but it is the different person. So third person plural means they would win, or Jayema means we would win. Yan, this is the accusative plural masculine, and here the base is yad, means those who. So this is a relative pronoun. Yad. Eva, it's a indeed. Hatwa, having killed. We saw this word appearing in the earlier verses also. Na means not. Jiji Vishamaha, it's a verb form. It's a, sorry, first person plural. It's a lat lakara. Parasmaipadi. This is an interesting word here. Jiji Vishama. So desire to live. The verb here is jeev. Jeev means to live. But in Sanskrit, any verb can be transformed into a desiderative form. So a desiderative form means it will mean desire to live. So instead of using multiple words that desire to live, Sanskrit has a structure whereby any verb can be transformed by certain suffix to mean desire to. So, for example, I go or I desire to go. In that sense, you still have a single verb form rather than using multiple words as in English. So that's how it has been used here, desire to live. And it's a first plural. That means we desire to live, and it's a lat lakara, present tense. So we desire to live. They, it's a nominative plural masculine, and it's a tad. They, that means they. Avasthitaha, so nominative plural masculine, and it is the like Rama, Ramaha, Avasthita, Avasthitaha. So Avasthita, standing. Pramukhe, this is seventh case, locative, singular. It's an adjective, so it can be used either in masculine or neuter. So we'll just say neuter here. And Pramukha, in front. That's the meaning. Dharta Rashtraha. This is also nominative plural. Masculine. And here it's just like the same as Avasthitaha, Dharta Rashtraha. Dharta Rashtra means belonging to Dhritarashtra. So this word, belonging to Dhritarashtra. So it can mean the sons of Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra means can be son of Dhritarashtra. It can be somebody who is on the side of Dhritarashtra, his relatives, or simply fighting on his side. That means on the other side. So Pandava is one side, the Kauravas, the Dhritarashtra is on the other side. So it can literally mean the sons of Dhritarashtra as well as anybody belonging to him. So these are a lot of words, but the meaning is actually not very difficult, because first we can split it into the 4 different sentences. So na cha etad vidmah, and we do not know this. What do we not know? So Arjuna is saying we do not know this. Vidma means we know. Katrat naha gariyah. Which of the 2 is better for us? So we do not know which of the 2 is better for us. What are the 2 options? So remember, Arjuna wanted to desist from the fight. He did not want the war. He wanted to run away from the war because it involved killing of his teachers, his gurus, and also many other people whom he loved. So he did not want to proceed with this war. But when he put all his logic and lamentations to Lord Krishna, Lord Krishna very unequivocally and kind of scolding him said that get up and fight. So now in Arjuna's mind, first it was like, I do not want to fight. But now Lord saying that it is the right thing to do. He is saying, we do not know which one is better for us. So you see how Lord's words are making slowly an impact on Arjuna. In the verse 2:4, we noticed that he is saying that, how will I fight back Bhishma and Drona in the battle with arrows? These are the worthy of worship. Then in the verse 5, he is saying it's better to go for the arms in this world rather than killing the gurus. So he is still, and then here at least he is coming to the terms that saying, okay, I do not know which one is better. What is better for us? So to fight, which means killing the teachers and loved ones, or not to fight, which is dereliction of duty, because Arjuna understood as a Kshatriya, as a warrior person, it was his duty to be a part of this war, which was the righteous war, not running away. So he's saying that we do not know which one is better for us, whether to fight or not to fight, between these 2 options. Then he is saying, Yadva Jaema, whether, so Jaema, as we saw, it's a first person plural, we would win. Whether we would win or Naha Jayeyuhu, us. Jayeyu means they would win. So we do, even if we go with this option of the war, we do not know. Naturally, in any war, the result is uncertain. So we do not know whether they would win us or we would win them. Then he's saying, Yaneva Hatvana Jiji Vishamaha. indeed, after killing those, like the persons whom we love, we ourselves do not want to live. So desire to live. We do not desire to live after killing those persons. So there are persons in the other side. If we kill them, and as a result of war, we have to kill them, we do not want to live. They are standing in our front. Those who are those persons? They are some persons who are belonging to Dhritarashtra's side. They are fighting on his side, which includes his teachers, Bhishma and Drona. So that's the meaning of the verse here. So this I have translation taken from the Gita Press book, and you can see in some places your understanding can be much better if you understand through the Sanskrit word analysis. And here it says, we do not even know which is preferable for us, to fight or not to fight, nor do we know whether we shall win or whether they will conquer us. Those very sons of Dhritarashtra, killing whom we do not even wish to live, stand in the enemy ranks. So some of the things you can see here, there is no word of the enemy here. So it actually literally says stand in the front. Even though the major sense does not change, but I just want to point it out that sometimes it does change. And here those very sons of Dhritarashtra, it actually, Arjuna did not really have much love for sons of Dhritarashtra. He had a lot of love for his teachers and some other relatives in the side. So if it were only for the sons of Dhritarashtra, he probably won't have this confusion, because he always knew that he is going to fight and he wanted to take care of them. So it is not that he is lamenting that he has to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra, but those very people on Dhritarashtra, those very persons on Dhritarashtra's side, killing who we do not even wish to live, stand in the front. So we have some time, we will do the next verse also. And again, I will like to invite if anybody wants to volunteer to chant along with me. So you can raise your hand in Zoom if you want to volunteer to chant. So otherwise you can just, I'll chant and you can chant in your place. Okay, so Vikram Baba, you can, I have just asked to unmute you. You can unmute yourself. Okay, so I'll chant one by one line and then you can repeat after me.
Okay, Baba.
कार्पण्य दोषोपहत स्वभावः
कार्पण्य दोषोपहत स्वभावः
पृच्छामि त्वां धर्म सम्मूढचेताः
पृच्छामि त्वां धर्म सम्मूढचेताः
यच्छ्रेयस्यान्निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे
यच्छ्रेयस्यान्निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे
शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम्
शिष्यस्तेऽहं साधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम्.
So I'll chant the whole verse. कार्पण्य दोषोपहत स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्म सम्मूढचेताः यच्छ्रेयस्यान्निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम्. So this is a nominal. Here number of words are not so many, but we have long words. Pruchhami is a verb. Tvam is a nominal pronoun. Dharma samudha cheta is a nominal. Yat is a nominal pronoun. Shreya is a nominal. Syat is a verb. Nishchitam is it's an indeclinable coming from the nominal. Bruhi is a verb. Tat is a nominal pronoun. Me is a nominal pronoun. Shishya is a nominal. Te is a nominal pronoun. Aham is a nominal pronoun. Shadhi is a verb. Mam is a nominal pronoun. Tvam is a nominal pronoun. Prapannam is a nominal. So this is a nominative, singular, masculine. Here the base word itself is like Ramaha. It's a long word, but in Sanskrit, you know that it only governs, it is governed by the ending. So a ending here is in short a, so that's why the base word is karpanya dosha upahata swabhava. And I have split it into 4 words. So it's a compound word made of 4 different words. So what would be the meaning here? I'm putting in the comments here. So karpanya is the feeling of kurpana. Normally we understand as miserness, and karpanya is that feeling of miserliness. But here it's not necessarily related to miserliness in terms of not being able to give the money to someone, but here it is more related to the feeling that not being able to come to terms, not being able to decide, not being able to use my intellect in a proper manner. So here if you look at, we'll see the translation of, so here he's saying faint-heartedness, vice of faint-heartedness. But I just wanted to let you know that it's not so much of the faint heart. The meaning here is we can choose to write faint-heartedness, but it is coming from that same logic here, that miserliness, that I'm not able to use my intellect to make the decision. So we can choose the faint-heartedness. That's okay. Dosha is the defect, literally mean. Upahata is overcome or influenced or struck. Literally meaning it would be struck, overcome or struck. Swabhava, nature. So Arjuna is referring to himself here. Karparnya doshopahata swabhava. So he is referring to himself that I, whose nature is overcome or is struck by this defect of faint-heartedness. That's the meaning here. So one who is overcome by the defect, one whose nature is overcome by the defect of faint-heartedness. So in Sanskrit, compounds can be very long, and it actually means Arjuna is to the person who has been overcome like this. So Pruchham is a verb. That's a simple verb. It's a lat lakara, first person, singular. Verb type is parasmaipadi. Root is here is pruch. Prach means to ask, like to ask a question in that sense. Tvam, it is the accusative, singular. Gender, in this case, it doesn't really apply. It is the same form in all the genders. Base word here is yushmad. Means you, to you, because it's the second case. So yushmad refers to you and it's a singular, so it's a to you. Dharma samudha chetaha. So this is another compound made of three different words. Dharma samudha chetaha. So dharma is a very broad word. It has a lot of meanings. Here it refers to the sense of duty. Samudha is deluded. Cheta is intellect or mind. So again, it is not referring to the mind. Arjuna is referring to himself. One whose mind is deluded in the sense of duty. Like, I do not know what is my duty in that sense. So one whose mind is deluded in regard to duty. So this is referring to the person, Arjuna himself as a person, referring to dharma samudha chetaha. Yat. So this is a nominative, singular, neuter. That. Yat means that. That which, you can say. That which. Shreya, it is also nominative, singular, neuter. Means good, or you also use it in the sense of better. Syat, it's a verb form. It's a Vidhiling optative. Third person, singular. Parasmaipadi. Root is us. Means to be. So it literally means what may be. Vidhiling optative is used in the sense of what might be, what would be. In that sense it is used. So it is a simple form, simple verb, to be. Literally the whole thing, syat would mean what would be or might be. Nishchitam, definitely, or certainly, like without any doubt. Nishchitam, definitely, certainly. Bruhi. So this is a lot lakara, and it's a second person, singular, parasmaipadi, and here the root is bru, means to speak. So lot is used in the sense of either as a command, speak, or it can also be used as a request. Please tell me, please speak. Tat. So yat and tat, they come in pairs. So you see yat and tat, it's a relative clause and correlative clause. So this one, it means that. May. So just like we saw the word naha, also if you look at may, it used in two different places for the asmad, I. So fourth and sixth case, it can be used, singular. So here it is fourth case, singular. It doesn't have a gender really. So asmad, for me. In English, we might translate it as to me, but it is in Sanskrit, this verb of speaking will take this fourth case. Shishya, many of you might be familiar with this word, means disciple. So it's it is like Rama, Shishya. It's a nominative singular masculine, and the word is, base word is Shishya. Disciple or a student. It's also used as a student. Te, just like may is used in two different places, te for the you also used in two different cases. It's a short form, like alternative short form. So sixth case as well as the fourth case. So here it is sixth case. How do I know which is sixth? Again, this doesn't have the gender. So yours, the sixth case means of. So of you, like means your. Aham, this is a nominative singular, and it is asmad. Here the meaning would be for me, and here it is I, because it's a nominative, it's the subject. So same word will mean I, the same base word, but a different form will mean I. Shadhi, it's a verb form. It's a lot lakara, second person, singular, parasmaipadi. And this word, this verb here is shas, means to teach, to discipline. It is used. So the word shishya is actually coming from the same root, shash, as well as the shikshaka, the teacher. Mam, it is also from the asmad. It's a pronoun. It's a singular. It's a asmad. So to me, to I, it will basically literally means to I, means to me. In English, we'll say to me or me. Many times you won't put the to here depending upon the verb. Twam, it is exactly the same mam and twam, except that it would become the yushmad here. So it literally means to you, but depending upon the way we form the English sentence, it may be just you. Prapannam. It is the accusative, singular. The gender here is masculine. The word here is like Rama, Prapanna. And it means surrendered. One who is, so it's coming from the root pat, means to fall, means one who has fallen at your feet, or one who has surrendered, one who has taken refuge. So let us see the verbs, because we know that Sanskrit sentence revolves around a verb. So this is one. From here to here, these 4 words. Karpanya dosho pahata swabhava pruchhami tvam dharma samudha chetaha. So verb here is pruchhami, means I ask. So it's a singular first person, it means I. So even though the subject here is not mentioned exclusively, aham, which is the subject, but because the verb can only be used with aham, we know that aham is implied. So I ask. It can be mentioned explicitly or implicitly. So I ask you. Tvam is the second case. I ask you. And he is telling Karpanya dosho pahata swabhava. I, whose nature is overcome by this defect of faint-heartedness, that Arjuna is telling about himself. And one whose mind is deluded in regard to duty. What is to be done? What is the right thing to do? So I, who is deluded regarding the sense of my duty, and whose nature is overcome by this defect of faint-heartedness, I ask you. So that will come in the next. What does he ask? So first he is describing his condition. And then he's saying, I am asking you. So if you look at, here the translation is, with my very being smitten by the vice of faint-heartedness, and my mind puzzled with regard to duty, I beseech you. So in English, you can use different words to convey the meaning properly, that is fine. But as long as you understand that how it is coming from, that meaning, that will help you to understand whether the translation has been really faithful to the original. And sometimes there could be multiple ways to express a particular thing. But if you understand the basic words, you will understand the sense of the words much better than just reading the translation. Then what he is asking? Yat shreya syat. So again, another verb here. Yat shreya syat nishchitam. So whatever, with what would be the good? Shreya means good or better. What is good for me? What is definitely good? What is certainly good for me? Not just temporarily, not just in the, for a given solution, given problem, but what is really good for me. So Shreya is actually a word which is used also in the sense of ultimate good. In Kathopanishad, there is a verse, Shreyascha Preyascha Manushya Etau Tau Samparite Manushya Eta Tau Samparite Vibinakti Dhira. Means Shreya, the good, and the Preya, the pleasant. That's a rough translation. They both approach a human being. It is the persons who are of the steady intellect. They decide, they are able to separate the good from the pleasant. and accordingly they choose either good or the pleasant. So naturally, the one who has really discriminated and decided what is good, he will choose good over pleasant. That's a very clear thing. And that's why a person of steady intellect is able to discern what is good, what is pleasant. So Arjuna is asking for here the good, not just something of a nature where it will satisfy me temporarily. Something you tell me definitely what is good for me. So bruhi, this is tat me bruhi. This is another. So nishchitam can be used either with the first or with the second sentence, like you definitely tell me, or whatever is certainly good for me, you tell me. So whichever way there is a little bit because Sanskrit the word order is flexible, you can put nishchitam in either of the two places. So bruhi is the lot lakara command. As I said, it depends upon the context. It can mean a request. Here Arjuna is certainly not commanding the Lord. He is requesting that please tell me, please speak to me. So please tell me. Tat, that you tell me. What is that? That which is good for me. So please tell me. Then next is shishyasteham. Here is again the verb is not given. The verb would be asmi. It is implied like aham te shishya. I am your disciple. So disciple, I am. So am is missing here, but that is implied. I am your disciple. Shadhi mam tvam prapannam. Shadhi is to teach, to discipline. Please teach me. Shadhi mam, please teach me. Now he's telling tvam prapannam. I am, so teach me who is surrendered to you, who has taken refuge in you. So tell me that which is decidedly good. I am your disciple. Pray, instruct. Pray, instruct who has taken refuge in you. So that's the meaning here. Now, if you look at in terms of Arjuna's transformation after Lord's scoldings, it has been pretty amazing. First, in the verse 4, it was a reactive attitude that how will I kill them? How will I fight back? He is not even willing to consider the possibility that he will fight them. He's saying, how will I fight back Bhishma and Drona? If they send the arrows towards me, how will I even counter those? Then he's giving that logic that it may be better to even eat the alms in this world than killing the gurus, those who are persons of great dignity. And for what? Only for attaining the security and pleasure. The next verse, he is considering that, okay, I consider that war is not good, but Lord is saying that this is the right thing to do. This is the duty. So between the two, we do not know which one is better for us. So at least here he has come that my option may not be the only right thing to do. What Lord is saying, that also may be right. So there is a start of the confusion that we do not know which one is better for us, whether to fight or not to fight. And he's saying, nor do we know whether we will win or they will win. But one thing is that we do know there are certain persons on Dhritarashtra's side killing those we do not want to live. Then slowly it occurs to Arjuna his problem, that what is happening here is, it's not just the question of to fight or not to fight. And this is a very famous verse, very beautiful verse. Here Arjuna has discovered a problem of confusion. which is a problem of every human being. We all have at certain points in our life confusion regarding what is the right thing to do. There may be, I want to run away from the problem, but in my heart, I know that it's better to tackle the problem, even if it's unpleasant. But the consequences of tackling the problem is not very easy to handle also. So here he is telling the Lord that tell me what is definitely good for me. If you remember in the verse 2 earlier, 2:2 and 2:3, when Arjuna has put his point that why war is not good, Lord has already instructed him that get up and fight. This is weakness of heart you have, it has come upon you, and that is not befitting you. So Arjuna already knows what Lord's view is in this regard. Yet he is asking again that please tell me what is definitely good for me. So this is, many commentators have taken that Arjuna is not asking only about the current situation at hand, which is to fight or not to fight, but he is asking about this fundamental problem of this confusion, of that I feel helpless. I'm not able to make a decision that what is the right thing to do and stick to it. Because in some ways, I do not understand what is really the nature of the things. And because I do not understand the nature of the things, I'm confused. And this confusion, Arjuna took this opportunity, rather than suppressing this confusion and somehow to take one or the other step, he wanted to really understand that what is it that is good for me. And he also understood that from his background, that this kind of knowledge, which is the ultimate knowledge, is not just attained that you ask for an advice somebody. If you look at Krishna's response earlier, that was more of an advice as a friend to friend, that hey, where this weakness has come upon you, just get up. But here Arjuna realizes that this knowledge is to be had. This is not just an advice that hey, I'm confused, can you tell me what is good? It is something he is asking much deeper, and therefore he knows that this knowledge occurs from guru to disciple, and he accepts discipleship here. You don't accept discipleship if you are just asking for an advice. But Arjuna understands this part based upon his upbringing in a certain culture, that this knowledge is to be had from guru to disciple. So, and then he is saying, I have taken refuge in you, I am surrendered to you. And this is the beautiful part why Gita is relevant to us even today, even though our situation is very different from Arjuna's situation. We are so much removed from Mahabharata, the Gita time frame, in terms of time frame. Yet it is as relevant today as it was to Arjuna thousands of years ago. Primarily, the reason is that this basic confusion, the basic problem of confusion, is still there in human being. And until that fundamental knowledge is revealed, that confusion does not go away. It can be suppressed, but it cannot completely go away. So this is the beauty of this verse, where Arjuna realizes this part, that my problem is not just to fight or not to fight. Problem is not just limited that whether I'll win or not win. Problem is not limited to whether I'll get the kingdom or not get the kingdom, but it's much deeper, and I want to solve that. And in order to solve that, I have to have a guru, and I have to accept the discipleship. And who better could be? This was Arjuna's sheer fortune, that Lord Krishna is sitting in his front, and he understands that even though Lord Krishna is playing the role of charioteer, means a servant of Arjuna, if you look at in terms of the war, Lord Krishna took the role of charioteer to Arjuna. That means he is serving Arjuna. But Arjuna understands that Lord Krishna is no ordinary person, and he has that knowledge, and he takes his discipleship. So with this, I'll take the questions. We are already in a little bit time, but if there is any, we can probably take another 5 minutes. So there is a question, what email I should use to ask for a copy of the Excel to work on the scripture verses? You can send the email to learnsanskrit@kriya.org, the same email which we have been using. So there is a request sharing this Excel sheet. I can share the Excel sheet. I'm sharing the individual verse analysis in the PDF format on the repository. The reason why I did not share the Excel spreadsheet itself, because many people have the problem regarding the formatting. So PDF makes it very easy for people to print without any problem of the formatting or the font. So if you look at the drive here, we have this scripture course, and these are the verse analysis files. So that's where I'm sharing the files here by verse, so that you can look at a verse, print it, and keep it for your records. But if you think Excel would help you, you can send a request, and we can send the Excel file to you. There is a question here. What is base word for Nishchitam? So let me see. Nishchitam, because I have put as an indeclinable here, I have not put a base. Sorry, this is the meaning rather than base word. I had confused here. So base word, if you take it as a case, then it would be Nishchita. So I'll correct this. This should be the meaning rather than the base word. So here the base word is Shreyas, and this is Yad, and this is Tad. Okay. So if there are no more questions, we have also done with the time. So we'll close the class with the prayers. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you all.